Okay, so have you ever, like, imagined what would happen if someone showed up one day with a title to your land
Oh, wow.
and said it was theirs, even though, like, your family's been living there forever? I
Whoa,
mean,
yeah,
talk about a nightmare.
that would be a wild situation, right?
Okay,
Especially if we're in the Philippines. I mean, land ownership is so tied up with history and family.
yeah, for real. So today we are diving deep into this crazy Philippine Supreme Court case that really shows just how messy these disputes can get.
Get
Okay,
ready.
so
This one.
this one is a roller coaster.
Eutiquio Elliot v. Danilo Corcuera.
It's got everything you could want in a legal drama.
Decided August 27, 2020.
Conflicting claim?
Conflicting claims.
No, 233-767.
Accusations of fraud.
Yeah, so
And this thing called acquisitive prescription.
we got to unpack this.
That might just make you response property rights altogether.
So basically, this case goes down in Calapacuan, Subic, Zambales.
Okay.
And the whole thing centers around this piece of land.
All right.
Law 11-122, covered by Original Certificate of Title No, P7061.
Gotcha.
Now we got Danilo Corcuera waving this title around saying, hey, this is mine.
Classic.
But then you have
Makes sense.
the heirs of Eutiquio Elliot, who have been living on and farming this land for who knows how long.
Oh, wow. So you've got one side with like
Generations.
the legal document and the other side with history on their side.
Yeah, and they're saying, no way this land has been in our family forever.
Wow.
That piece of paper means nothing.
That's a recipe for a showdown.
Right? So Corcuera, feeling all confident with his title,
Sure.
decides to sue to get possession of the land.
Makes sense.
His argument is basically, look, I have the registered title, case closed.
Seems pretty straightforward, right?
But the heirs of Elliot were not just going to give up that easily.
Oh, I bet they had something to say about that.
Oh, yeah, they did. So they come back swinging, saying, hold on, we had this protest going on with a dinner.
Right? The Department of Environment and Natural Resources.
Yeah, the dinner are questioning if Corcuera's title is even legit.
Interesting. So they're basically challenging the validity of the title itself?
They were claiming that he got it through some shady business.
Ooh, that adds a whole other layer to this.
Right, so now it's not just a property dispute.
Yeah.
It's like a full-blown legal thriller.
Now we're talking.
And guess what? The trial court actually sided with the heirs of Elliot at first.
Really?
Yeah, they took into account how long they'd been living on the land.
Right.
And they also looked at what the dinner had found about Corcuera getting the title.
Makes sense. So it sounds like they were really considering the bigger picture.
Exactly. But hold on.
Oh, there's more.
This case goes all the way to the Supreme Court.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
So, things got complicated.
I was about to say, this is just getting started.
The Court of Appeals actually overturned the trial court's decision.
Really?
Yeah, they basically said, look, a registered title carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But the heirs of Elliot, they weren't giving up.
Good for them.
They appealed, and the case ended up in the Supreme Court's hands.
So what did the highest court in the land have to say about all of this?
Well, you're going to have to wait until after the break to find out.
Oh, come on. You can't leave us hanging like that.
I got to keep you coming back for more.
All right. Fair enough. I guess we'll have to wait and see what the Supreme Court decided.
But
I have a feeling this is going to be good.
Oh, it definitely is. So make sure you stick around for the rest of this deep dive.
Can't wait.
Okay, so the Supreme Court, they end up siding with the heirs of Elliot.
Wow, no kidding.
And their reasoning is, like, super interesting.
I bet lay it on me.
They brought up this legal thing called res judicata.
Res judicata. Now that sounds fancy.
Yeah, it basically means
break that down for us.
You can't keep arguing the same thing in court over and over.
So like once a decision is made, that's it. You can't just keep bringing it back up.
Exactly. It's like the court saying, we already dealt with this, move on.
Okay, makes sense. So how does that apply to this case?
Well, it turns out...
Was there like a previous case or something?
There was actually another case before this one with the same people and the same land.
Oh, wow, really?
And in that case, the court had already said the heirs of Elliot were the rightful owners.
So the Supreme Court was basically like, look, we already decided this years ago.
Yeah, case closed.
No need to rehash it.
But there's more.
Oh, there's always more with these legal cases.
They also bring up this other legal principle called acquisitive prescription.
Okay, acquisitive prescription. Now that one I've definitely heard before, but...
It's a tricky one.
I could use a refresher. What is that all about again?
So basically, it's a way to legally become the owner of a property.
Okay.
Even if you don't have a title.
Wait, really? So you're telling me you can own land without a title?
Yeah, if you can prove you've been possessing it openly and peacefully for a certain amount of time.
That's pretty wild. I mean, I guess it makes sense though, right? Like if someone's been living on a piece of land and treating it as their own for years and years,
right?
Maybe they should have some claim to it, even if the paperwork's messed up.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened in this case. The Supreme Court said the heirs of Elliot, they met the requirements for acquisitive prescription.
So they were living on the land openly,
Yeah.
using it, and no one was really disputing it.
Right. And they've been doing this for a long time.
So the court basically said their actions spoke louder than any piece of paper.
Exactly. So even though Corcuera had that title, the heir's history with the land was just too strong to ignore.
That's pretty powerful, actually. I mean, it's like saying that sometimes the reality of the situation
Right.
matters more than what's written down on a document.
Yeah, it's like the law recognizing that sometimes the way things are on the ground
Right.
is more important than what some piece of paper says.
That's a really interesting takeaway from this case, for sure.
So yeah, this whole case really makes you think about what it means to own land.
It really does. It's not always as simple as having the title.
Yep, sometimes it's about history
Connection.
and how you've been using the land.
And what the community recognizes, too.
Exactly. It's a whole lot more complicated than you might think.
Got that right.
So what do you think about all this?
I'm still processing it all, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but that's what we do here on the Deep Dive.
We dive deep into these complex issues and try to make sense of it all.
Exactly. So if you're enjoying this conversation, make sure to hit that like button
And subscribe to the channel.
so you don't miss out on any future Deep Dive.
We've got plenty more where this came from.
It's crazy to think that, like, the Supreme Court basically put so much weight on, like, the heirs just being there on the land for so long.
Yeah, it really highlights how Philippine law tries to balance the, like, official legal stuff
Right.
with, how things have always been done.
Right. Like, I mean, Filipinos were dealing with land ownership way before.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The Spanish even showed up.
Long before any of these Western legal ideas.
Right. So it's like they had their own systems in place.
Exactly. And those traditions haven't just vanished,
Yeah.
They're still a part of how people think about land.
It's like trying to mix oil and water.
So sometimes it works. Sometimes it creates some interesting situations.
So basically, the Supreme Court was, like, acknowledging that reality in this case.
Yeah, I think they were saying, look, we get it. Families have been passing down land for generations, even without fancy titles.
Right. It's like the law is saying, we see your history and we respect it.
Exactly. And that connection to the land deserves to be recognized.
It's like saying a piece of paper doesn't always tell the whole story.
Exactly.
This whole case has really made me rethink, like, what it means to own something.
It definitely challenges our assumptions.
It's not always just about, like, having the right paperwork.
It can be about so much more.
Yeah. It's about history and culture.
And those personal stories that are tied to the land.
Like, the land almost becomes a part of who you are.
It's part of your family's legacy.
Right? It's why.
It's a reminder that the law is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Trying to keep up with the real world.
And finding ways to be fair to everyone.
To balance all those different interests and perspectives.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We really have.
From crazy legal battles to complex legal principles.
To the history of land ownership in the Philippines.
It's been a journey.
And hopefully our listeners have learned a thing or two along the way.
Or at least had their minds blown a little bit.
That's always the goal.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button.
And subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations of these fascinating topics.
We've got a whole world of knowledge waiting to be uncovered.
So until next time, stay curious.
And keep those minds sharp.